Time to light the match for the burning truth with Casey Hendrickson.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Well, here we are, 5:07. It is November 7th. We are now a couple of days removed from the election, and joining us on the line, I'm just going to say it, you're no longer Congressman Jim Banks, you're Senator-elect Jim Banks. Congratulations.
Thank you, Casey. What an honor. What a great night Tuesday was, not just for me personally, but for our country. I'm still processing it. I still can't hardly believe it. I mean, this was a clean sweep for Republicans. Donald Trump won every swing state. He won the popular vote. We won the majority in the Senate. We're going to keep the majority, I think even grow the majority in the House. America spoke loud and clear. Enough is enough of the radical Democrats. It's time to go back to the Trump policies, and that's the message from Election Day.
You know, you've said it. I think I've said it. I've seen even commentators in the news media say, I mean, this is a mandate. You know, this is something that Republicans have been chasing the Electoral College as they should. Didn't really care about the popular vote all that much. We're seeing the numbers go back and forth between 4.5 to 5 million plus in the popular vote for Donald Trump. Seems to be a complete and a total rebuke of what has happened over the past 4 years. And even so now, Congressman, Senator-elect, we are even watching liberals and Democrats on social media suddenly look at the graphs and the charts and saying, hey, where the hell did these 20 million votes that magically disappeared from 2020 go? And I offered a theory that maybe they never existed to begin with.
Well, certainly it shows us once again that if we were playing by the same rules in 2020 that we were playing by in 2016 and 2024, Donald Trump would have won that election too. I mean, I think that's a very clear takeaway from this election. But more important than that, Donald Trump has changed American politics and changed the partisan breakup, the coalitions of the Republican and the Democrat Party, I believe, for a generation at least to come. And what I mean by that is working class, blue collar voters, those voters who work jobs where they earn an hourly wage are overwhelmingly Trump Republicans and voting for Republicans now that voted, and they voted Democrat before, but Donald Trump has brought them to our side. And that was clear in 2016 when he first ran. That coalition held together in 2020. Biden was Wall Street's candidate. Donald Trump was Main Street's candidate. And then more than both of those elections in 2024, that working class coalition, steel workers, factory workers, teachers, plumbers, the police officers, those men and women who make America work, that make America the great country that it is, are more Republican than ever before. That's a big takeaway and a responsibility. You called it a mandate. It is a mandate. We have a mandate to represent those voters by closing our border and stopping the influx of immigration into this country, taking jobs away from legal Americans, from illegals, and then abusing some of these TPS programs and other programs to flood our country with cheap labor. It's a mandate to get our economy working again by investing in American energy instead of sending it overseas, to stop shipping our jobs overseas and bring manufacturing back to the United States of America. But Casey, the big takeaway is less for Republicans and it's more for Democrats. Today's Democrat Party is crazy. They're wacky. They're more focused on radical abortion policies and sex changes for kids and taxpayer funding of sex changes for inmates and illegals. They're more focused on all of that and all the woke garbage that they're pushing on this country. And most Americans are saying, I might have been a Democrat before, but I'm definitely not a Democrat today. And that's why Tuesday was such a great night for Donald Trump, for Republicans, and for this whole country.
Yeah, I think you look at the coalition that Donald Trump has put together, conservative Republicans, regular Republicans, some libertarians, even got the endorsement of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party. You've got Democrats, like traditional Democrats, not crazy left-wing Democrats. Then you got people like RFK. You got Elon Musk. This really is a coalition that looks an awful lot like America when it comes to ideology. Can that work together in a government when ideas start butting heads? I know that there was some negotiation with RFK about that when he was asked to come on board. Do you think that Trump is able to manage all of these very different personalities who have different views on a whole host of issues and keep that coalition actually working for the American public?
Well, I'm very confident about it, and there's a couple of reasons why. One, Donald Trump has changed the makeup of Republicans in Congress. I mean, there are no more, or not as certainly not nearly as many of the Mitt Romneys and the Liz Cheneys and the Never Trumpers in Congress. They've all been defeated. They're all gone. So that means Donald Trump has allies in the U.S. Senate. And today, just a few minutes ago, Pennsylvania was called for Dave McCormick. So that puts us at 53 Republicans in the United States Senate. And I can tell you just from the last 24 hours, my phone is blowing up from people that are trying to get appointed and nominated to fill the Trump cabinet. That's one of the first missions that I have, is to help back up Donald Trump and help him confirm nominees to his cabinet who are going to back him up. Because back in, if you remember back, I know 2017, when some of the establishment forces pushed a lot of people to Trump to be in his cabinet, who ended up being not aligned and somewhat altogether adversarial to President Trump and what he was elected to do. So now Donald Trump has allies in the Congress to back him up, and I think that's gonna help form this unique, diverse, I think powerful cabinet of people around Donald Trump who are going to help carry out that mission and that agenda.
Yeah, don't leave my name off of any lists. I'll consider anything. Just you let me know.
We'll make you the ambassador to Zimbabwe.
Hey, let's do it. I'm all for it. We're talking with Senator-elect Jim Banks, current congressional representative of Indiana's 3rd District. And again, this is a mandate. And if people go to your social media, you'll see this. Our military is about to be free from DEI indoctrination, taxpayer-funded abortion travel, taxpayer-funded transition surgeries. We have the mandate. So Jim Banks gets in there. You help Donald Trump set up his transition team, which, by the way, the Democrats are very surprised that this is moving so quickly. He's very, very prepared this time around. Your team has done a really good job of that. But now, okay, January comes along. He's sworn in. You're now sworn in. Republicans have the Senate. Republicans have the House. Do you foresee it being easier for him to get things done than it was the last time he had some mavericks on the Senate side that stalled some of his key pieces of legislation?
Yeah, Donald Trump his eyes are wide open. In 2016, he was the non-politician who got elected in that historic election, beating Hillary Clinton. And he came to Washington, realized that draining the swamp was more challenging than what anybody thought that it would be, and the swamp fought back. And Donald Trump is the greatest fighter of our lifetime. Every time they knock him down, they indict him, they even try to kill him, he stands back up on his feet and pumps his fist in the air. That's the type of fighter that he is. But he's more prepared today for this job than he was on January 20th of 2017 when he was inaugurated the first time. This has only happened, Casey, twice in American history, where a president was lost an election and then came back 4 years later and won an election, Grover Cleveland being the only other president in American history to do this. So to me, that means Donald Trump is more prepared than anyone in our lifetime to be president, because he's done it before. And there's nobody better to clean up the mess of the last 4 years than the guy who did it for 4 years, cleaning up the Obama mess. He's going to clean up the Biden mess in the same way, and I'm going to be there to have his back to get it done.
So the latest jobs report, only 12,000 jobs created. All of them were government jobs. 28,000 jobs lost in the private sector. 46,000 manufacturing jobs lost last month. 7 or 8 of the last 10 months, manufacturing jobs have been going overseas. Trump has talked about it. You've talked about it. He has history of doing it before. Is this from the ground running? Is this basically like agenda number 1, number 2, get manufacturing back in the United States like he did the last time? when Barack Obama tried to take credit for what Trump did.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is what the tariffs and the tough trade policies on countries like China who manipulate our trade deals. And Donald Trump I've said this to you many times before. He's the only president in my lifetime who's ever been tough on China. We had Republicans and Democrats play footsie with China, and Biden's been weak on China too, although he's kept some of the Trump policies in place. He's done away with some of the others. So Donald Trump knows that to return manufacturing jobs back to the U.S., you got to be tough on China and bring those jobs back here. So he's ready to do it. He's going to surround himself with a great team, a great cabinet to make that happen. And I'll tell you what, there are two types of people who are scared today. One of them should be the Mexican drug cartels who've been flooding drugs into our country and crime, and they've been getting rich on Joe Biden's watch, and Donald Trump's going to take them on in a bigger way than what they can imagine. So that's one set of people. And the other set of people are the career bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. who aren't even going to work. You go to almost any federal office building or department in Washington, D.C., and these federal workers are still working from home from a pandemic because of a pandemic that was long gone long ago. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Casey, that's the first place to start cutting government, is get rid of these career bureaucrats who their jobs are so simple that they don't even come to work. So these career bureaucrats who realize that they're going to have to start coming back to the office and coming back to work. They're not going to get away with that anymore. It's going to be a big change and a great day for our country when Donald Trump becomes president again.
I know that people have joked about it. I've joked about it. Even Elon Musk has joked about it. Can you just convey to Elon Musk, if he doesn't show up for work in Washington, D.C. with a kitchen sink, we're all going to be sorely disappointed. Like, he had better have one. Please.
Yeah. Elon Musk, Donald Trump's vision to employ Elon Musk to help him make government efficient and work again and cut out the bureaucracy and the fat that's limiting innovation and growth in this country. There's nobody better to do that. This is why Donald Trump was the greatest president of my lifetime. For the first 4 years he was president, he's going to be even far better in his second term, and I can't wait to be a part of it.
Yeah, just as an aside here, with the workers who are still staying at home because of the pandemic, which is now over, I'm keeping an eye on this 43 monkeys that got out of the government-affiliated lab in South Carolina. I don't know what's going on there. Seems very suspicious timing-wise for me. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up to Senator-elect Jim Banks is Donald Trump looks like he's going to win on Election Day. We start hearing Vladimir Putin say, "I want peace with the West." After the debate with Joe Biden, both Zelensky and Putin said, "We're willing to sit down and negotiate." Now that Trump has won the election, Putin says he's ready to talk. Zelensky says he's ready to talk. Hamas has now sued for peace. Stock market is at, again, another record high. Target has signs in the store saying Merry Christmas instead of Happy Holidays. You've got all of these victories that have come out of just Donald Trump winning. And I know that a lot of people are very interested in what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Ukraine. I know that Trump has said his first call is to the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, but where is that second call, and has he made those calls yet to try and bring peace in some of those conflicts?
I'm sure that there are important conversations that are happening, but this is the difference between having a strong American president and having a weak American president. The rest of the world is on notice. They know that Donald Trump is a strong leader for America. He projects strength around the world, and that a strong America, a strong commander in chief will do more to deter our enemies around the world than anything else. So this is an important point that you're making. I might steal it and tweet it in a moment, almost word for word, of how you just articulated it, because you're better at that than me. But the wins that Donald Trump is piling up, and he's not even president yet. Just wait till he gets in office and imagine how great this is going to be for our country. And getting back to that important, powerful point, winning the popular vote, Donald Trump has a mandate, and Republicans have a mandate to do what we have to do when we do what we said we were going to do to get this country back on track. That that has to happen right away, and I'm going to be there to push for it and be a leader in our party to make it happen.
I'll delete this live stream and won't even tell anybody that you took that from me if you give me a position in Donald Trump's administration. I'd be happy for the exchange. There is a little rumor out there, and then I'll let you go. Is it true that you got the most votes of a Senate candidate? I saw a rumor out there. I couldn't believe that. Is that true?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think,
you got Pennsylvania coming in. I found that really hard to believe.
No, I don't think there's no way that's true with some of the bigger states. I think I got more votes than any Senate candidate in Indiana history, and I'm proud of that.
That makes perfect sense.
We did better on Election Day than we ever imagined, and Donald Trump is the reason why. Donald Trump has coattails, and that's why in 16, 20, and now 2024, Donald Trump has grown majorities. Because when he brings out these voters that come out to vote for him, and then he brings other Republicans with him. And this ridiculous notion that Donald Trump lags, or that all the people who complained over the last 4 years that he couldn't win and he underperforms, it's just not true. He overperforms. He does better than every other Republican on the ballot. He led the ballot in Indiana, almost every other state. He's not just good for our country; he's good for the Republican Party, and we got to keep the Trump policies, the agenda of the Republican Party, and we'll be winning for a long time to come.
I'm looking forward to the battle for the leadership of the U.S. Senate with you in there as well. Congressman Jim Banks, Senator-elect Jim Banks, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations again. Looking forward to big things from you in the near future.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. We got more coming up. You're tuned in to The Burning Truth. All right, I'm going to play you some audio, and Eric posted this on the live stream, so thank you for that. We are a quick turnaround and went long with Senator-elect Jim Banks, but I just wanted to play this for everybody. This is the barracks at Virginia Military Institute, one of the most storied military academies in the world, as the announcement of who won the election was being announced.
Attention inside and outside the barracks. The winner of the 2024 presidential election is Donald J. Trump.
Let's go!
There you go. There's VMI. Border Patrol officers are staying on the job. A lot of law enforcement around the country choosing to stay on the job. Military people choosing to re-up. There's a lot of positives going around over this. And it looks like the Department of Justice is backing off of January 6 cases. Oh, that's interesting. That might actually help some people even in the Allen County area. We'll talk about that coming up on The Burning Truth.
The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
Now, it wasn't that long ago. It was just a couple of weeks ago. There was an announcement that a couple of Fort Wayne people were being charged with January 6 stuff after all this time. I'm like, really? Right before the election? Like, we're gonna do that? And again, it's just, it's not serious allegations or anything like that. But so we have Anthony Vo and his mother, Annie Vo, walked inside the U.S. Capitol. Nobody stopped them. Nobody told them that they were trespassing. The mother and the son stood inside the Capitol and left 27 minutes later. They were not violent. They did not cause any damage. They did not commit any crime. In April of this year, leftist judge Tanya Chutkan, who we've talked about many times on the show, very, very radical, anti-Trump, just crazy person, sentenced Anthony Vo to 9 months in prison for walking into the Capitol and not doing anything else. That's it. Okay? So in March of 2025, the Department of Justice is going to put Annie Vo, a grandmother, on trial in Washington, D.C. for the so-called crimes that she allegedly committed on January 6th. The DOJ has been harassing and abusing this family for 4 years now because they support Donald Trump. Again, they are not accused of any violence or damage. Just walking into the Capitol, that's it. Well, on Wednesday morning, the assistant U.S. attorney assigned to the Annie Vo case withdrew from the case. When President Trump returns to office, the government must issue a formal apology to the hundreds of families and individuals who were wrongly targeted, harassed, abused, and imprisoned for the non-crimes that they committed on January 6th of 2021, writes Jim Hoft over at the Gateway Pundit. And he's right. Now, there are those who committed acts of violence and damage. We're not talking about them. We're talking about people who are being convicted of illegal parading. That's what they're being convicted of. Imane Khalif or Khalif, remember that name? That was the Olympic boxer who looked like a man. Remember that one? Then everybody was out there telling you that not a man. Remember when the newspapers finally got Donald Trump to say, hey, men shouldn't be boxing in the Olympics? And then Trump, without evidence, says that Imane Khalif is a man. I mean, the evidence is the Adam's apple, but I digress. You have to understand, I'm just doing a quick little back. I'm not going to go into the details because we already did the details with this. There's two boxers in the Olympics, different weight classes that were biological guys. Khalif was the major figurehead for that, the Algerian boxer. I went over the plausible medical explanation for why Imane Khalif may very well have a case. And I also pointed out to all of you that in Algeria, it's illegal to be trans, meaning that Imane Khalif would likely never come out as being a biological male because they could die. And I told you all to prepare for that. Well, now there's a medical report that has been released, which technically is unverified, but is widely reported in traditional corporate media. A women's rights group has demanded that Imane Khalif's Olympic gold medal be taken away following the emergence of an alleged report that claims to have evidence that the Algerian fighter was biologically male. Khalif won gold in Paris in a dominant run to the final that came against the backdrop of a gender eligibility rule. Now remember, they had already been disqualified. The IBA had said this is a person who does not qualify to box with women. But the Olympic Committee approved. The controversy was further stirred after their second round opponent, Angela Carini, retired 46 seconds in, citing pain to her nose and reportedly insisting that she had never felt a punch like that. Khalif would go on to win the competition and earn widespread plaudits back home in Algeria. However, they continued to receive abuse both online and in the media. Earlier this month, a report in France, which is yet to be confirmed as legitimate, but this is in the Daily Mail, alleged that the 25-year-old has male characteristics and XY chromosomes. Now, again, I explained the medical conditions that could create this scenario. But I asked you all a very simple question. Let's just say this isn't a biological man who is pretending to be a woman to get a competitive edge. Let's just say the legitimate medical conditions exist. Does that actually change anything? Because we are still talking about somebody who will get the male physical characteristics that females can never develop and can never, ever have. It doesn't matter how many steroids they do. That was my take that day. I broke it all down for you under the guise that Khalif was telling the truth, that there was an actual medical condition, which I explained to everybody in great detail, that would explain some of the IBA's concerns, but still not make Khalif a liar. But the question ultimately was, would that actually matter? If they had this medical condition, would it really matter if they did or not? Because ultimately the result is the same thing. Physiological development that is impossible for a woman to achieve. We agree that the medal and all awards should be taken away and given to the best performing female athlete, said Icon's co-founder Kim Jones when asked by the German outlet Bild. I always mispronounce that, Bild, by the way. Jones added that sanctions and penalties should be imposed to hold accountable those, including the heads of the IOC, International Olympic Committee, and the Algerian team who put women at serious risk through deception and loss of their performances. This case is a perfect example of what goes wrong when leadership is too fearful or too uninformed to do its job. I mean, yes. Now, with that said, the medical report seems to suggest that Khalif has this medical condition. That Khalif is not just a man who decided to become a woman for a competitive edge. That this isn't just a man who decided to become a woman because they felt like a woman, but that this is a serious case of a medical condition which has led to their development being very masculine. And as a result, could technically mean that Khalif is not lying or trying to deceive anybody. That's what the medical report seems to indicate. And again, it is as of yet unconfirmed. Like I asked before, does that even matter though? We're still talking about the same competitive advantages, whether it's a medical condition or not. There are all sorts of medical conditions that will prevent you from competing in an athletic event for various reasons. Some might give you an advantage, some might take away an advantage. Some might put your opponent at risk. And typically speaking, if you have a medical condition that will put your opponent at risk, you are not allowed to compete. That is usually how that works. I think that when you cover this and talk about this online, you should also remember something else. And this is a component that often gets lost in the West because we're able to kind of mouth off about whatever we want most of the time. And the worst that we face is censorship or somebody trolling us, right? This person can die in their own country if they come out as a biological male. And as a result, they're probably going to do everything they can to hide that reality. So keep that in perspective. This is very different than somebody who is a not very good swimmer who has admitted in private to multiple people that they have a fetish of dressing up like a woman and then dressing up like a woman and suddenly becoming the top swimmer in the country. This is a very different scenario than that. Are there similar risks to the other athletes? Absolutely. Yes. I mean, actually, it's more severe in this case because we're talking about physical violence. But the situation is different. This in no way excuses the IOC for what they did. The IBA appears to be correct. Feminist groups and watchdog groups are angry about this because this is somebody who should have been disqualified from competition. And you can say that they're disqualified from competition because of a medical disorder. You can say that, and then the controversy goes away. But the IOC went out there and told everybody that they're okay with trans athletes going out there and hitting women in the face. And then we had that press conference. You remember that press conference, Morgan? Were you here when we played the press conference of the Olympic Committee chairman?
Yes, I even made shorts of it.
Who was sitting there going, oh, you did? Yeah, he's sitting there going, we haven't seen a test that tells us what a woman is yet. So when you develop that test, you just let us know. That was the International Olympic Committee who said that at a press conference. I'm like, dude, you're not helping yourself here. So this boxer has XY chromosomes, has internal male anatomy, the grapes, if you will. They're internal, okay? It appears to be the medical condition argument that I mentioned before. And it doesn't appear to be, I'm a suck boxer, so I'm going to change genders and then go beat up on women and win a gold medal. It doesn't appear to be that case. But nonetheless, the IOC should be ashamed of themselves because the IOC hasn't just put those other women in physical jeopardy. The IOC didn't just deny them the opportunity to win a medal, but the IOC has now made an international scene with Imani Khalif when they're from a country which could kill them because this is exposed. And they had an opportunity. They had an opportunity to deny Imani Khalif the competitive arena, but save their dignity and save their life, and also allow women to have a fair competition. And the IOC chose wokeness over all of that, and instead has now jeopardized half a dozen people. And Imani Khalif right now, I mean, who knows, folks? We're talking about Algeria. Their life could genuinely be in danger because the IOC wanted to make a political point. Got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth. Yeah, so one of the people that Donald Trump is picking to be in his cabinet is a Christian, libertarian, environmentalist, capitalist, lunatic farmer, unquote. Joel Salatin, a self-described Christian, libertarian, environmentalist, capitalist, lunatic farmer who runs Polyface Farms in West Virginia, wrote on his blog that Massey would be agriculture secretary in the Trump administration. Interesting. We'll see. I have a feeling that we're going to get a lot of really, really fun appointments that are going to be coming out of this. Who knows? Maybe Senator-elect Jim Banks will get yours truly a jobby job as ambassador to coffee or something over in the Trump administration. I mean, that's a job that I'm very qualified for. All right, I got to talk about Daniel Penny. This Daniel Penny thing has been really, honestly, it's been a travesty. I think we all know that. Daniel Penny is the guy in the subway where, you know, this guy is going out there. He's threatening passengers. Daniel Penny, Marine, puts him in a chokehold, subdues the guy. The guy dies. They now charge him with the death of this homeless guy who was threatening everybody and was clearly a danger. Now, some of the stuff that has come out in the trial that listeners of this show would have known already was that the guy that Daniel Penny had to put in a chokehold, Jordan Neely, was alive and breathing when police got there. And the police refused to render aid. Now, we've heard this. This has been written about, but the body cam footage hasn't been released until the trial. So in the trial, they saw the body cam footage for the first time. So a lot of people who are following the Daniel Penny case in New York suddenly are like, wait a minute, he's alive, he's breathing, there's a pulse, and they're not rendering aid. And they wouldn't render aid because he was, well, dirty. They didn't want to get hepatitis. And so they just left him there. Now, again, they probably looked at it. He's breathing. He'll probably be fine. Doesn't matter. It's inexcusable. The point is that they're trying to pin the death of this guy, Jordan Neely, who was a clear threat to the passengers on that train. And Daniel Penny removed that threat in a way that would prevent unnecessary violence. And Jordan Neely died, ultimately because aid was not rendered by the first responders who got there because they didn't want to get cooties on them. That's the truth. So this comes out, I mean, and it is just, for a lot of people, very eye-opening. There was riots, there was violence as a result of this. Most people know that Daniel Penny's a hero. Witnesses testified today that they genuinely feared for their lives before he stepped in and saved them. There was a moment where I thought I was truly going to die, said one passenger. And that was when, again, Neely came into the train, soiled clothing and all, which is why the first responders didn't want to render aid to him. And he said you would know that if you listen to this show, but there's a lot of people who are hearing about that for the very first time. Neely was alive, he was breathing, and he had a pulse when first responders got there, and they did not render aid, and then he died. And then they blamed Daniel. They blamed Daniel Penny for it. Travesty of justice. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.
Podcasts by Federated Media.